Hello and welcome. Controversy over fuel subsidy removal rages. National Economic Council urges Nigerians to wait for government's decision in June as governors plan talks with organized labor on the issue. Former head of state warns against removal of fuel subsidy, says increase in the price of petrol will push more Nigerians into poverty. A busy day for the president as he inaugurates a series of infrastructure projects in Kaduna at the start of a two-day visit to the state. And huge explosion rocks mining town in western Ghana. Many people feared dead. Plus we have international news from our London studio.
On business news tonight, United Nations report shows global foreign direct investments hit $1.65 trillion in 2021, surpassing pre-pandemic levels.
On sports news tonight, defending champions Algeria bow out of the African Cup of Nations following a 3-0 defeat to Côte d'Ivoire in their final Group E clash in Douala.
And from Abuja, the House of Representatives moves to investigate reports of over 178,000 missing firearms and ammunition belonging to the Nigeria Police Force.
Nigerians may have to suspend any form of anxiety over the issue of fuel subsidy removal as the National Economic Council is asking citizens to wait for the government's decision on the matter in June. This came as a response to questions from State House correspondents after a meeting of the Council today, the first for this year, held at the banquet hall of the State House in Abuja. The meeting was chaired by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Oshibajo. Our State House correspondent, Kayla Megwa, reports.
This is the first National Economic Council meeting for 2022 and the 102nd since its inception. The meeting had become virtual lately following the COVID-19 pandemic. This time, it is attended physically by state governors from across the country, government officials and staff of the World Bank. First on the agenda is the launch of the Nigeria COVID-19 Action, Recovery and Economic Stimulus Program, NG Cares. The $750 million World Bank loan will be distributed to the states in 2 tranches over a 2-year period after an assessment of the success recorded following previous disbursements.
A big part of this is to ensure that these funds, as they're on lent from the federal level to the state level, actually reach the communities, the households, the small businesses.
According to the Vice President, the program will leverage existing programs in the states aimed at tackling the impacts of COVID-19 on the most vulnerable in the society.
In order to ensure this successful program implementation, the federal government will provide quality assurance, monitoring, capacity building, and technical assistance to states and the FCT on project activities and results.
After the launch, the media is excused as the meeting goes into a closed-door session. Deliberations expected at the meeting include balances for the Federation accounts, which stand at $35.8 million as at January 17, 2022 for the excess crude account, 30.6 billion naira for the stabilization account, and 42.8 billion naira in the development of natural resources accounts. As the meeting ends, the governors inform State House correspondents on some of the decisions reached, especially the proposed removal of fuel subsidy.
We didn't make any presentations on this because there has not been a decision. But in reality, all of us Nigerians know that there is now the Petroleum Industry Act, and NNPC has now become, a limited liability company. So NNPC will run differently. So if the Ministry of Finance provides for 6 months, you probably can understand part of the reason for provision of 6 months is before NNPC fully takes off. And at that moment, that's when decisions will be made.
No word from the National Economic Council on the removal or non-removal of fuel subsidy or the rise or fall in the price of petrol. The conversations today focus mostly on health care, helping adolescent girls fighting maternal mortality across the country. And while all these things continue, the nation continues to look to the National Economic Council for developmental policies that will move the country from where it is to where it ought to be. From the banquet hall of State House in Abuja, Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
And before the National Economic Council meeting, the Nigeria Governors Forum had made its intention on the issue known, saying it will engage the organized labor groups to thrash out the matter. And that's according to the chairman of the forum, Governor Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State, who briefed the press after a meeting of the governors that lasted into the early hours of today.
The forum also discussed the issue around petroleum subsidy and concluded to engage the leadership of the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress on how best to address this issue without causing any disaffection, but with a view to salvaging the Nigerian economy for the Nigerian people. For us at the forum, it is a matter that is a going concern. We don't have a definitive issue on it because it's left to the Petroleum Industries Act. You heard me earlier. It is not for us. NNPC is now a private company, and the company should decide what it wants to do with the price of its products. It shouldn't really be the business of governors, really. It is not up to subnationals to decide on what happens to PMS prices. It is an entirely exclusive responsibility of the federal government. However, we are critical stakeholders and we are members of the National Economic Council, so we contribute to debates in the National Economic Council.
Meanwhile, former military head of state General Abdulsalami Abubakar is also raising concern over the controversial issue of the planned fuel subsidy removal. He pointed out that Nigeria is facing many challenges on multiple fronts and wants the government to muster the courage to address the issues, expressing fears that the increase in the price of petrol will push more Nigerians into poverty. He was speaking at the 19th Daily Trust Summit in Abuja.
Trying to establish relations.
It is the 19th edition of the Daily Trust Dialogue, and conversations here focus on the politics of the 2023 election, the economy and insecurity.
What is our productivity level?
The former military head of state, General Abdulsalami Abubakar, is the chairman of the occasion. He lays the foundation for the conversation.
Nigeria is once again at crossroads. Insecurity remains the single most difficult challenge for our country today. Unemployment or underemployment remain at the record levels, and over 80 million Nigerians are still caught up in needless poverty. In fact, Nigeria now faces a food security crisis that is confounded by the COVID-19 global pandemic and the banditry in many states in northern Nigeria. Fuel prices are expected to rise significantly in the coming months, as announced last November by the NNPC. We all know when this happens, as the government has planned, it will push many millions deeper into poverty.
He then proffers a solution.
Our unity and our large and youthful population remain our greatest strengths. We must not compromise these.
His opening remark opens a floodgate of reactions as participants give their perspectives on what should be done to return Nigeria to the path of prosperity.
The identification of a capable leadership by the political parties or the political class, that can bring together all components of this country together, and also the competencies that are available so that we can get out of this crisis.
As we all know what was cannot resolve, definitely dialogue resolves such things. And what dialogue cannot resolve, no amount of weapons can resolve such.
But we should also have to understand the root causes of the insurgency, which are not limited to endemic poverty, pervasive illiteracy, high social inequality, poor economic infrastructure, poor social infrastructure, environmental degradation, climate change, drug abuse, among others. Until we address these root causes, we'll not get it right.
The consensus here is that 2023 offers another opportunity for Nigerians to make a decision on the best leadership for the country, and participating in the electoral process is key to ensuring that that happens.
To politics, and as preparations are ramped up ahead of the off-season elections this year, as well as the 2023 general elections, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, is calling for a repeat of the professionalism displayed by security agencies during the Anambra governorship poll. Professor Yakubu made the appeal at the quarterly meeting of the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security in Abuja. He also announced plans by the Commission to activate additional 1,862 continuous voter registration centres.
It's the first quarterly meeting of the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security in 2022, and the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission is leading key players, including the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and representatives from the Office of the National Security Advisor, to the meeting.
I have no doubt in my mind.
The INEC chairman starts by appraising the conduct of the Anambra governorship elections, soliciting for the cooperation of security agencies for future elections, starting with the FCT Area Council election.
The standard of professional conduct displayed by INEC officials and the security agencies in Edo, Ondo, and Anambra governorship elections will be maintained in all forthcoming polls, including the 2023 general election. Our responsibility is to protect the process, to guarantee its integrity, while leaving the outcome of election to voters to determine.
He also gives an update on plans by the Commission to increase the number of voter registration centres across the country.
The continuous voter registration exercise has now entered its third quarter. I want to assure Nigerians that we are aware of the constraints experienced by many citizens in reaching the 811 designated centers nationwide to register. Some of them are separated by a considerable distance from the places where they reside. We are looking forward to activating additional 1,862 centers nationwide to make it easier for citizens to exercise their right to register as voters.
However, a representative from the Office of the National Security Advisor assures that efforts are in place to ensure a successful conduct of the off-season elections.
The NSA wishes to reiterate Mr. President's commitment toward ensuring a free, fair, and credible forthcoming general elections in 2023. All available security and intelligence assets of government will be mobilized towards achieving the said objective.
In the meantime, the Commission is undertaking a comprehensive cleaning up of the voter register to remove underage persons who may attempt to vote during the 2023 elections.
In part two, after the break, a professor from the University of Uyo arraigned for electoral fraud. Plus, the president inaugurates a series of infrastructure projects in Kaduna at the start of a two-day visit to the state. That's in a moment. We'll join us again. welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Controversy over fuel subsidy removal rages. National Economic Council urges Nigerians to wait for government's decision in June as governors plan talks with organized labor on the issue. Former head of state warns against removal of fuel subsidy, says increase in the price of petrol will push more Nigerians into poverty. A busy day for the president as he inaugurates a series of infrastructure projects in Kaduna at the start of a two-day visit to the state. And a huge explosion rocks mining town in western Ghana. Many people feared death. The fresh trial of Professor Ignatius Uduk, a lecturer in the University of Uyo, commenced today at the Akwa Ibom State High Court 9, sitting in Uyo, the state capital, in 3 counts bordering on publishing and announcing false electoral results. The case was filed by the Independent National Electoral Commission against Professor Uduk, who was engaged by INEC as a collation returning officer for Esienudem State constituency on March the 9th, 2019 governorship and House of Assembly elections. The commission had charged 2 UNIUYO professors engaged as ad hoc staff to court for electoral fraud, while one of the professors, Peter Ogban, was convicted and sentenced to 3 years imprisonment. Professor Uduk's case suffered repeated adjournments, in the course of which the judge in charge of the case was replaced by a new trial judge. At the resumption of proceedings, the 3 charges were read to the defendant, but he pleaded not guilty to all of them. The trial judge, Justice Basi Nkangang, adjourned the case to January the 25th, 2022, for continuation of cross-examination. It was a busy day for the president in Kaduna today as he moved from one part of the state to another, commissioning various projects executed by the administration of Governor Nasir El-Rufai. President Muhammadu Buhari, who is on a 2-day working visit to the state, commended Governor El-Rufai for committing himself to changing Kaduna, noting that he's been successful in that quest. The president had arrived in Kaduna yesterday night, direct from Banjul, Gambia.
This government is initiating a series of investments in urban infrastructure.
At the inception of his second term in 2019, Governor Nasir El-Rufai launched the most comprehensive urban renewal project in the history of Kaduna State.
Kaduna has grown tremendously in the last 100 plus years since its founding.
Beginning with Kaduna, the state capital, the government initiated a series of investments in urban road infrastructure. These investments, according to the government, are expected to promote competitiveness, support economic dynamism, and promote the well-being of the people. Similar projects were also launched in 2 other main cities, Kafanchan and Zaria. President Muhammadu Buhari, who's always lived in Kaduna, is in the state to inaugurate some of the completed urban renewal projects. From Kaduna, the president, accompanied by the governor, proceeds to the Kafanchan to commission 3 road projects. He later proceeds to the palace of the Emir of Jemma, Muhammad Isa, to pay homage.
One of my biggest supporters, when I was in uniform, was a person from this area, late Usman Ma'azu. May his soul rest in peace. He has been a great patriot, he's a great Nigerian, and he worked very, very hard, to consolidate the good relationship between all the people throughout the country, not only between Kaduna and southern Kaduna and whatever it is called. May his soul rest in perfect peace. And may his family live in peace.
Thereafter, the president returns to Kaduna to continue the inauguration of projects. One of them is the remodeled Murtala Muhammad Square, a sprawling sporting, event and recreational center.
The entire Murtala Mohammed Square has been rebuilt and redeveloped. The pavilion that you've had rallies here has been preserved, one of them. But what we have here, Mr. President, sir, is a multifunctional facility, 5 restaurants, a small boutique hotel, sporting facilities, horse racing, polo, hockey, football, tennis, swimming, everything is here, and there is even a track for those that want to jog.
It is a busy day for the president as he also inaugurates the reconstructed Kano flyover. These infrastructure are built to ease the flow of traffic, promote integration, and enhance socio-economic activities for the people of the state. Other projects commissioned by the president include the 136-bed infectious disease hospital, Mando, in Igabi local government area. The president also commissioned the new Leventis underpass. The president's visit to Kaduna State continues on Friday in Zaria, where he will commission road projects before being hosted to a state banquet in Kaduna.
Let's cross over to Abuja now, and here's Linda Akigbe. Linda?
Hello, Ijoma. Now, moving on to security. The House of Representatives is to investigate the case of missing firearms and ammunition of the Nigeria Police Force in excess of 178,000 since 2019. This is sequel to the report of the Auditor General to the Public Accounts Committee of the House, which suggests that the arms and ammunition which the police claim to have purchased cannot be accounted for. The matter was raised by the Deputy Minority Leader of the House as a motion of urgent public importance.
The House notes the 2019 report of the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation on alleged disappearance of about 459 different arms and ammunition of the Nigerian Police Force in 2019. The House is aware of the findings in the report that the Police High Command failed to keep record of unserviceable and expired firearms and ammunition owing to non-compliance to the internal control system of the Nigerian Police Force. The House is worried that the value of the lost firearms could not be ascertained because no document relating to their cost of acquisition was presented for examination. The House is mindful of the worsening state of security, kidnapping, banditry in the country, and concerned that the missing arms could have found their way into the wrong hands.
Meanwhile, troops of Operation Hadinkai have neutralized a total of 37 terrorist elements in the northeast, with 17 said to have been arrested. 21 assorted arms, as well as 117 rounds of different calibers of ammunition and 4 gun trucks were captured from the terrorists. The Director Defense Media Operations, Major General Bernard Onyuko, stated this during the bi-weekly press briefing on the operational activities of the armed forces within the last 2 weeks.
Ground troops, with support of the air component, foiled terrorists' attempted infiltration in Biu Town in Borno State. During the encounter, troops neutralized scores of the terrorists, captured their gun trucks and other weapons. Relatedly, the air component of Operation Hadinkai scored devastating hits on terrorist stronghold at Arena Chiki village in the Lake Chad Basin in Borno State, which resulted in the neutralization of scores of bandits, while several others escaped with gunshot wounds. This feat was achieved on 14th January 2022. A total of 37 terrorist elements were neutralized. 17 of them, as well as 21 assorted arms, 417 rounds of different calibers of ammunition, while a total of 4 gun trucks were captured from the terrorists. Additionally, troops rescued a total of 16 abducted civilians within the period. A total of 863 terrorists and their families, comprising 136 adult males, 251 adult females, and 476 children, surrendered to own troops at different locations. The troops of Operation Harder and Dodge within the last 2 weeks maintained their operational tempo by conducting clearance operations on criminal enclaves across the theater. Consequently, these operations resulted in the neutralization of 12 armed bandits, arrest of 15 others, including their collaborators.
In Benue State, the government has raised the fine for impounded animals from 2,000 to 50,000 naira, with additional 20,000 naira daily quarantine fee in the amended Open Grazing Prohibition and Ranches Establishment Law of 2022. Governor Samuel Otom, who disclosed this today while signing the amended law, says failure to claim the animals after 7 days, the State Ministry of Agriculture is empowered to auction the animals in line with the law.
The House of Assembly have approved that for every cow arrested by our livestock guard, the owners should pay the sum of 50,000 naira. Instead of the meager 2,000. Because they came here, sometimes 2,000 cows are arrested, and they come and say, how much? And then they just pay and go away. And for every cow that is arrested and kept in a quarantine center, if you don't collect it the same day, after paying 50,000 naira, you will pay an additional 20,000 naira per each cow. If you don't pay, and if you cannot pay within 7 days, the law permits us to auction such cow.
As part of the move to protect Nigerian cultural heritage, the federal government and the United States of America have signed a memorandum of understanding. The agreement is expected to restrict the exportation of archaeological and ethnological materials by illicit traffickers. The Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, expressed optimism that the agreement will reduce the pillage of Nigeria's ancient arts.
Ministers of Foreign Affairs, Information and Culture, the United States Ambassador to Nigeria and other government officials at the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding of a Cultural Property Agreement. By the agreement, which is expected to last for 5 years, the United States will facilitate the return of Nigeria's stolen artifacts.
On the basis of this agreement, Nigerian antiquities being imported into the United States without relevant or requisite export permit will be seized at the border of the United States and returned to Nigeria without the arduous and costly task of going through the labyrinth of judicial and diplomatic processes.
Today's agreement is about learning from the past and recording through this agreement our partnership to preserve, restore, and protect Nigeria's diverse cultural heritage. This agreement will further promote the exchange of archaeological materials for scientific, cultural, and educational purposes, including long-term loans of such materials with the aim of increasing public awareness of Nigeria's cultural traditions.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs calls for more awareness for law enforcement agencies on best practices of safeguarding the country's assets.
One of the most important are the border measures. You know, we have to have our, we have to sensitize our police, our customs, our immigration, so that we are seen to be doing what we can to safeguard those assets of ours from being pillaged and illegally taken out of our country.
Officials of both countries then put pen to paper to seal the deal.
Of the legal documents, please.
The United States is committing to continue investing in the preservation and protection of cultural heritage in Nigeria.
That's all from Abuja. Back to you, Ijoma.
Thanks a lot, Linda. The president of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Ayuba Waba, says organized labour will resist the planned removal of petroleum subsidy by the federal government. Speaking on our program, Politics Today, Mr. Waba explains that there is no justification for the removal.
Well, Labour have already indicated our line of action. First, we rejected this whole policy of continue to import product for domestic use, and now trying to look at how the system is not working and transfer the entire issue to Nigerians. And we have said clearly that there are many options. What we will do first is, already you are aware, Labour have set 27th of January to make sure that we're able to inform Nigerians. And I'm sure Nigerians are also joining to say that this policy certainly has a lot of implication and is going to push many people into poverty. And basically, these are options we are bringing to the table. If that fails and they said, well, we are continuing to drive the process and also remove the subsidy, the so-called subsidy, I want you to put the word subsidy in court. Then basically also you know what it entails. We have no any other option than also to resist the policy, and basically we have done that time without number. Are you sure? The issue why many Nigerians feel that we ought not to be in this situation is because we have oil. God has given us oil freely. What has happened to us that we cannot even refine it?
To education now, the University of Lagos has held its 52nd convocation ceremony for 4,418 students at the postgraduate level for the 2020 academic year. One of them is 70-year-old Suleiman George, who obtained a doctorate degree in mechanical engineering. While applauding the graduates for staying committed to their studies, the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Oluwatoyin Ogundikwe, asked them to contribute their quota towards nation building.
This procession heralds activities outlined for the Day 3 of the University of Lagos 52nd Convocation Ceremonies for the 2020 academic session. Guests from all walks of life are present at the university's main auditorium to grace the occasion. (4,418) graduates are set to be awarded postgraduate diploma, masters and PhD in various courses. And this is special for the university's Vice-Chancellor, Professor Oluwatoyin Ogundikwe.
This 52nd convocation ceremonies will be my last in office as the Vice-Chancellor of this prestigious University of Lagos. I want to say congratulations to the graduating students who have come to UNILAG. You have seen and you have conquered.
Similar line of thought is shared by the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of the Governing Council of the University, Dr. Larry Tejuosho.
As a product of UNILAG myself, I am certain that they will be joining hands to improve the socio-political and economic spheres of the nation.
The moment the graduating students have been waiting for arrives, and the Chancellor of the University, Alhaji Abubakar El-Kanemi, the Shehu of Benue, takes on that responsibility.
I confer on you all in favour the master's degree in various programs of the School of Postgraduate Studies. Thank you. Congratulations.
Among the 145 PhD graduates, is a 70-year-old Australian George who backs a PhD in mechanical engineering.
Shall we continue to put our hands together for the 70-year-old PhD holder of the University of Lagos?
And Umudu Joy, who obtains a PhD in pure mathematics as well as emerges with the overall best PhD thesis. Global President of Unilag Alumni Association, Dr. John Momo, inducts these new graduates as members.
I do solemnly pledge, as a proud alumnus of the University of Lagos, to conduct myself in a manner befitting my status.
And he goes on to present prizes to the best graduating students. To wrap up proceedings, the visitor to the university, President Muhammadu Buhari, who is represented by the Deputy Executive Secretary NUC, wants the graduates to justify the investment in them, particularly in the area of job creation.
It is now time for you to be useful to your fatherland. I am certain that you have solutions to some of the cross-cutting challenges confronting mankind and those which are unique to us as a nation. And I want to see your ingenuity at work.
With the 52nd convocation ceremony over, the graduates are expected to bring their knowledge to bear in solving society's everyday challenge. Press Lems, Channels Television News.
Congratulations to them all, from education to infrastructure, where residents of many communities in Abia State have applauded the state government's construction of interconnecting hinterland roads as routes to Aba and other villages within the city. They say the roads will boost economic development and ease the congestion in Aba access. Meanwhile, the state government is asking communities that are yet to benefit to be patient as it places quality of work above speedy delivery.
Abia, a state in the southeast region of Nigeria, is bordered to the north and northeast by Anambra and Enugu states, Ebonyi and Imo states to the west, Cross River State to the east, Akwa Ibom State to the southeast, and River State to the south. Communities here are majorly agrarian, which makes good road networks a must-have for businesses to thrive. One of such networks is the 9.3 kilometers Osokwa Link Road, which cuts across villages in Umoba, Umuika, Umukabia through Obingwa down to Aba Metropolitan City and connects with neighbors such as Akwa Ibom and Cross River State. Construction work is also being done in batches in many other areas to deal with problems within communities that have close proximity.
If you deal with a stretch of road and the adjoining streets are not taken care of, that road becomes a cul-de-sac. And that road cannot give you the socio-economic benefit you desire.
The state government has used this method to reconstruct many access roads to ease commuting, but residents fear indiscriminate dumping of refuse may block drainage systems and cause damage to the roads.
This road now is motorable. Even the banks here, most of the banks they're closed. Most of the shops around here, they're closed. But because of the government intervention, you can intensify by yourself. It's motorable now, and they're all enjoying it.
Many more projects are in the works, according to the state governor, as he appeals to the people to be patient to enjoy the dividends of democracy that show quality over speedy delivery.
I want you to be compensated by the fact that the ones we have signed, sealed, and delivered are standing till today. And I said early enough in this administration that I cannot be stampeded into doing a hogwash job.
The state government says developing infrastructure is a priority area that it's pushing to improve the quality of life of residents.
Economic reforms could help Nigeria go far in its development strides in 2022, but this could be threatened by political considerations and labor union activities. And that's the view of economist and chief executive officer of financial derivatives company, Mr. Bismarck Rewani. He made the submission at a webinar on Nigeria's economic outlook for 2022, which was organized by First Bank.
The focus of the webinar is for 2022, but this would not go without a reflection on the economic indicators for 2021. The economic expert took time to provide a breakdown of the figures in key areas. Mr. Rewani notes that the Buhari government's economic sustainability plan was a success in 2021, and this is evident in the GDP growth rate, but the same cannot be said of the economic recovery plan. That's not all. He also speaks on the possibilities that could arise from the planned fuel subsidy.
What's the inflation rate in Ghana? What's the inflation rate in Benue? What's the inflation rate in Togo? Inflation rates in those countries are much lower than ours. However, they have deregulated petrol. The only people who will lose from PMS deregulation are those who are at Idiroko, by the border.
The real test for his presentation came during the interactive session, as participants needed to know how to take advantage of President Buhari's recent open challenge to Nigerians on agriculture.
Every megawatt of power produced in the country, the first place it goes to Mali, because the Futajalo Mountains, where the Niger River starts from, is there. If they dam that river, then we are done. So that's why Doyin Salami said that from the reports that we have, and the president held on to it, and the president has kept on saying it. But words are not enough.
A panelist's review followed Mr. Rewani's presentation, during which some of his points were interrogated. And co-economist Opeyemi Agbaje speaks on what he considers the failure of the Nigerian policy environment.
The biggest failure, in my view, in the policy environment over the last few years is that we've essentially wasted an oil price crisis. And so we've gone through the entire oil price crisis, 2 recessions, and we're still as dependent on oil for our FX and for our government revenue as we were at the beginning. So that's a crisis wasted. American policy always takes advantage of crisis to do reforms.
In spite of predictions that inflation will remain structurally high in 2022 and a projected growth rate of 4.70 and 1.6% for the manufacturing and agriculture sectors respectively, it appears experts have a fair economic forecast for Nigeria in 2022.
For some more business news, here's Teniola Shobowale.
Thanks a lot, Ijoma. Welcome to Business News. The United Nations Conference on Trade and Development says global foreign direct investment made a strong rebound in 2021 as it rose by 77% to about $1.65 trillion from $929 billion in 2020. A breakdown of the global FDI figure shows that developed economies saw the biggest rise with an estimated $777 billion in 2021. FDI inflows in Africa also rose as flows to South Africa jumped to $41 billion. Meanwhile, the Central Bank of Nigeria's latest economic report showed that FDI inflow into the country stood at just $0.03 billion in October 2021. The Federal Inland Revenue Service says it plans to achieve 100% automation of all tax administration processes in 2022. In a statement, the FIRS notes that the deployment of technology for automation of its processes would block revenue leakages. The tax authority further adds that collecting tax from the digital economy will be a top priority this year. Let's check in on the stock market now. The equities market sustained bullish momentum as the all-share index rose today by 1.01%. Ini John Mekwa has the details.
Oh, thank you so much. Welcome to the stock market report. Sustaining the bullish sentiment from yesterday, although not as impressive as yesterday. The local bourse gained more than 1%, and the all-share index is getting really close to the 46,000 level. And today, that made investors 248 billion naira richer, and it kept the bull happier. This positive sentiment spread to the activity charts. Everything was in green. Deals, but more catchy we see the volume and value. Both of them went up almost 250% compared to yesterday. A lot of trading took place on the floor of the NGX today. Looking at the counters now, the oil and gas seems to be putting a break on that bull drive. Today it retraced and closed in the red. It was down 0.09%. Banking continues its winning streak. It was up 0.36%, not as much as yesterday and 2 days ago, though. Industrial goods, however, is leading the counters. It closed almost 3% up on its index. And this was obviously driven by Dangote cement. Investors traded almost 103 million units of Dangote cement today. So place it as the top trade by volume and by value. Its share price went from 270 naira in the morning to 284 naira 90 kobo in the evening. A gain of 14 naira 90 kobo. Sometimes the equities market can be very good investments, you know. Well, that's the stock market report. I'm Imi John Mekwa.
And that's business news tonight. It's back to Ijeoma for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Teniola. Many people are feared dead after a huge explosion near a mining town in western Ghana. The police say a vehicle carrying mining explosives collided with a motorcycle near the town of Bogoso. Officials have not confirmed the number of casualties, but graphic videos show mutilated bodies of victims. For more international news, here's Simon Pusey with Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. US President Joe Biden has said he thinks his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin will move in on Ukraine but does not want full-blown war.
We have no problem understanding one another. He has no problem understanding me, nor me him.
He told a news conference Mr. Putin would pay a serious and dear price for invading, but indicated a minor incursion might be treated differently. The White House later stressed any Russian military move would be met with a swift, severe response from the West. In a video released by the government, President Volodymyr Zelensky urged Ukrainians not to panic. Russia has some 100,000 troops near the border but denies planning an invasion. The Kremlin warned the comments could further destabilize the situation.
My guess is he will move in. He has to do something. I think he still does not want any full-blown war, number one. Number two, do I think he'll test the West, test the United States and NATO as significantly as he can? Yes, I think he will. But I think he'll pay a serious and dear price for it that he doesn't think now will cost him what it's going to cost him. And I think he'll regret having done it.
The former Pope, Benedict XVI, failed to act over 4 child abuse cases when he was Archbishop of Munich, a German probe into the Catholic Church has alleged. Pope Benedict held the position from 1977 to 1982. He has denied the accusations, but a new report into historical abuse allegations carried out by a German law firm incriminated the former pontiff. Abuse continued under his tenure, it is alleged, and the accused priests remained active in church roles. The first foreign aid planes have arrived in Tonga, bearing much-needed supplies for the Pacific nation, which was left devastated by a volcanic eruption and subsequent tsunami. New Zealand said its military plane landed at Tonga's main airport after workers cleared ash from the runway. Australia also confirmed the first of its relief planes had arrived. Aid efforts had initially been hampered by ash from the volcano. Ghislaine Maxwell has officially requested a retrial weeks after she was convicted on sexual abuse charges.
And use all the profits to go back in to pay for things.
The 60-year-old was found guilty of recruiting and trafficking young girls to be sexually abused by the late American financier Jeffrey Epstein. The retrial request comes after a juror in the case told media that he used his own experience of being sexually abused to influence jurors reaching a verdict. At least 29 people, including 11 children and a pregnant woman, have died in a stampede at an open-air Pentecostal church service in Liberia. The gathering, known as a crusade, was being held in a densely populated beachside area of the capital. Police say members of a street gang entered the prayer ground after a collection had been done as the event was ending, causing panic. Some of them were armed with knives and one person has been arrested. Burundi's president has demonstrated his skills as a drummer by playing the country's famous royal drums during a visit to a drum sanctuary on the outskirts of the capital. Burundi's State House tweeted that Evariste Ndayishimiye had been an avid drummer from a young age, and he could not resist putting on the traditional drummer's outfit and joining in the singing, dancing and playing of drums at the Gishora Sanctuary, which is located on a hilltop. And finally, a British-Belgian teenager has become the youngest woman to fly solo around the world. There were cheers and applause as the 19-year-old landed at the airport. Zara Rutherford landed in Belgium 155 days after departing on the 31,700-mile 5-month journey. Her flight in a Shark microlight plane was supposed to take just 3 months, but bad weather and visa issues kept her grounded, sometimes for weeks on end, extending her adventure by about 2 months. She covered 41 nations and 5 continents in total.
It's just really crazy. I haven't quite processed it, I think. I mean, coming here, I was basically in tears, just trying to imagine what it'd be like to finally be home after 5 months. And even this flight wasn't easy, so I'm just super happy. Well, so I've been waiting for the sandwich that's like from a sandwich shop that's like really nearby, and I've been waiting 5 months to get it. So I'm really looking forward to getting it hopefully soon.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.
Amazing. Thanks a lot, Simon. For some sports, here's Ayotunde Balogun.
Thanks, Ijoma. Côte d'Ivoire crushed an abject Algeria 3-1 with Nicolas Pepe among the scorers as the reigning champions crashed out of the Africa Cup of Nations in the group stage earlier today. Frank Kessie and Ibrahim Sangare scored in the first half for the Elephants in Douala, while Pepe added another goal after the break as the Ivorians secured top spot in Group E. Equatorial Guinea go through in second place in the group after defeating Sierra Leone 1-0, thanks to a superb first-half strike from Pablo Gannet. Mali and Gambia finished first and second in Group F with wins against Mauritania and Tunisia. League leaders Remo Stars have extended their unbeaten run in the 2021-22 Nigeria Professional Football League to 7 games. The newly promoted side earlier this evening defeated Abia Warriors by a lone goal in Ikene, with Dayojo getting the only goal of the match in the 63rd minute of the second half. Diogo Jota has fired Liverpool into the League Cup final against Chelsea as the Portugal forward double sealed a 2-0 win at Arsenal in the semi-final second leg. Jota put Liverpool on course for a showdown at Wembley with a first-half strike and then got the second late on in North London. The Jurgen Klopp side will face Chelsea in the final on February the 27th. And that's a wrap in sports news. Is back to you, John.
Thanks, Ayotunde. And the main news again. The controversy over fuel subsidy removal raged on today as the National Economic Council appealed to Nigerians to wait for the government's decision on the matter in June, while governors plan to hold talks with organised labour on the issue. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thanks a lot for staying with us. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Do have a good night.